Welcome to the show. I'm Jessica Ray with the Marketing and Client Service teams at Ardeo Education Solutions. And this conversation, we're going to unpack the current hurdles enrollment leaders are facing, explore a strategy that is actually moving the needle forward for colleges and universities, and hear personal stories from the field that might just reshape how you think about student recruitment. I'm joined by two voices who've been around the enrollment block during big landscape changes, as well as they've both sat on the other side of the desk as higher ed vendors and consultants. Our guests today are Matt Osborne, Senior Vice President of Client Service, and Dr. Ken Myrick, Vice President of Campus Partnerships here at Ardeo. So Matt, Ken, welcome. Thank you so much for joining today's episode. And I want to go ahead and invite you both to introduce yourselves. Ken, could you go first, please?
Sure, Jessica. Thanks for having us on today. It's a pleasure to share a little bit about what my experience is in higher ed. This is all I've ever done. I can still walk backwards and give a mean tour if I need to. So that's always a fun thing to do when we're on campus. I've been with Ardeo for about a year and make my home in Clarksville, Arkansas with my volunteer firefighter husband. And that's a tidbit I never thought about being a firefighter's wife. So here I am in partnership with that. So thanks for inviting us today.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, so I've been with Ardeo for over 11 years, but prior to that, 30 years in higher ed, and 22 of those as a vice president. And I was the very first client of Ardeo. Got to utilize LRAPs for 6 years. I am still trying to think about what it means, Jessica, when you say we've been around the block. I would say that Kim and I have been around the block, numerous times.
Yeah.
We may very well have blocks named after us somewhere. I'm not sure. But anyway, I think that, at least in my case, that means I'm getting long in the tooth. But always, my greatest joy comes from connecting with folks in the enrollment area and talking shop. I love data and people. I'm one of those sort of strange people that sort of can live in both worlds and enjoy both worlds. And I do realize things are changing. I think maybe we're going to talk about some of those today. And so I'm also enjoying learning while I'm on campuses now of some of those changes. But anyway, glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely, Matt. Thank you so much. And I didn't pay you to tee up my next question so perfectly, but it worked out phenomenally. So our first question to kick off the conversation, Matt, since you segued so beautifully, I'm going to pass this one to you first. What are you hearing from your clients right now? What challenges are they facing? What's keeping them up at night?
Yeah, so there's plenty. Well, Kim, I feel like there's always been plenty to keep us up at night, but obviously there are maybe different flavors of things. Here we are close to May 1. And so, you have the typical things that keep people up at night. Are these projections real? In some cases, if you're up, you're asking, are these real? In cases where you're down, you're like, I hope they're not real, and that we'll get a nice rush here before May 1. So those are sort of typical things. But I think, this year, if you've got a campus with a significant international student population, there's that issue. There's the larger demographic issues that are being dealt with, which is impacting competition. It's impacting search. It's got a lot of different facets that are coming to play. And then there's this new thing, this AI thing, right? Which is sort of like, can I make a multi-action figure of myself? Which seems on LinkedIn to be the thing right now. Anyway, I read somewhere of what it costs to generate one of those. So I'm not going to do one. If you were looking for one, it's not going to happen for me. But I think there are just so many different opportunities right now. And while that's exciting, you're also like, the challenge is keeping up. Am I up to speed with the competition? Am I up to speed with new opportunities like AI? So there's lots of reasons to not sleep well at enrollment.
Definitely. Kim, are you hearing similar things from your clients as well? Are demographic challenges starting to crop up in conversations with your clients?
Gosh, I think I am hearing similar things. And As I was contemplating that question, Jessica, it reminded me of the years in those blocks we've been around where we present a 10-year history and there might be one asterisk for a year on that 10-year timeline. Well, now we're in a period where there could be an asterisk for every year. This year was COVID. This year was post COVID. This year was the FAFSA. This year is an international change or another political change that's in fact affecting what we're doing in higher ed. So there's a lot there, and that's been a lot on my mind, that there are pressures from all sides. There are pressures from a hiring perspective, making sure you keep a staff, that you keep them trained, and recognizing the time it takes to hire a staff and to keep them trained is really pulling on enrollment professionals, I think. Um, then there's also the pressure from the broader campus community, because folks know that enrollment drives revenue and revenue drives salaries, right? And so everyone has an expectation or an interest in enrollment success. And enrollment leaders feel those pressures from multiple sides, especially at this time of year. So I think there's a need, I feel a need to support my colleagues on campus as best I can to help them think about potential strategies that come along with changes in demography, right? So demography is not destiny, but demography bears thought. We need to think about these changes that are coming both in the numbers of students entering college and in the types of students and the needs that they have in this post-COVID land that we're walking through. So just so much to talk about in that area, Jessica.
Yeah, definitely. Kim, thank you. Follow-up question I have on that. So to back up, I think one key aspect of what Ardeo does so well with our clients is that consultative relationship that we have with our clients, that it really is a relationship. It's a partnership that you all have with each of the point people that you talk to on campuses. So, what are some of the key defining characteristics for you all in helping a college identify their strategy and maybe even the time frame to deploying strategies?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot the last few days as we head, in the blink of an eye to May 1 and after May 1. And everything was so different this time last year because of FAFSA. And so comparing to last year doesn't really help us. We've got to think about things differently. So it could be really easy to think about loan repayment assistance programs and say, gosh, you've got to start this in August or September for the next year. I don't think that's true right now. I think any day is a good day to talk about the opportunity and the levers that we can pull to improve conversion from admitted to enrolled, or to protect deposits and reduce melt over the course of the summer. So, one of the things I think Matt and I both enjoy most is the opportunity to develop those strategies and to listen to campus leaders and learn more about their needs. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with that, and you know, all of our work really starts by listening uh, to what the campus's goals are, and then looking for where we best align to help them achieve those goals. And as you said, at this time of year, we sort of are in that period of time where there's people that are forward looking and they're thinking about fall 26 recruitment, and there are a wealth of opportunities for ways in which LRAP can be used in that situation. And then there's the folks that are like, no, we really need a bump. I need a bump for this coming fall. And you know, the opportunities to deploy there and the strategies that align, while fewer, are still very productive, as you got to experience last year with Loyola and New Orleans, and as I got to experience with Eastern Michigan and Jackson State. So there's just while the types of strategies are more narrow, the opportunities are still there for somebody to move the needle for the fall. And you know, the one thing that's still mystifying to me, Kim, and I don't know if you feel this, is that there are times now where we're talking to folks and they're like, actually, things are all set. We're looking great. And unless they have run out of capacity, I'm always like, why not pilot now? You're not going to have to count on it. It sounds like you're going to hit your goal. So why not let's try some things where there's no pressure, because given our business model where you only pay for the student who enrolls and borrows, there's not a downside to doing this. I can understand the mindset if you were working in another situation where you had a set fee that you had to pay, right? And whether it produced or not, you've already paid that money. But in our business model, I think experimentation is almost welcomed and worthwhile to do. So, if you're not under pressure right now, why not use that non-pressured time to try some things for the future when you might want to say, okay, let's run with a horse that we've already shown can run. So anyway, I can talk about that too long, so I'm going to stop right there.
So a quick segue here, into to kind of ping pong off of what you're saying, Matt. I think one of the ways that I describe LRAPs to others is that it's a very flexible tool. And you've both used the analogy before that the enrollment leader is really in the driver's seat with the tool. Can either of you, maybe Matt or Kim, whoever wants to take it, I'll vibe it to either of you. Can you explain a little bit about how that works so that folks listening can really understand when you're saying that it's a flexible tool, that there really is, the sky is the limit on how you can use it and for whom you can use the program?
Go ahead, Kim.
Sure. I'm thinking about a campus partner that joined us recently, and the conversations are so rewarding to talk about strategy when we come across an enrollment leader that knows their data. So they know their inquiry app admitted pool, they know the conversion. And by know the pool, I mean that they're able to identify where there are opportunities to improve conversion, right? Where there's an opportunity to get more admits, where there's an opportunity to see more admitted students deposit. And in this case, the VP was able to say, gosh, we know that there's an opportunity with a student aid index below this. And we want to reach students in this GPA range with this student aid index with loan repayment assistance, because we're committed to those students as part of our institutional plan, part of our strategy. And so it was really easy for him to see how it fit. And Matt and I asked questions to help understand, what are your institutional goals? Where is their capacity? Where is their need? So do you have students looking at education or social work or the missions or pastorate, whatever the major might be? Where might their income be modest after graduation, that we could reduce their anxiety about borrowing so they're more likely to choose your institution? And that's how we see improved conversion and ultimately improved net tuition revenue. An advancement friend of mine used to say that floats all the boats, right? Anything we can bring alongside that lifts revenue floats all the boats and improves outcomes across the institution.
Yeah, and I want to just jump on when Kim mentioned net tuition revenue. The other thing that's an opportunity as you're driving your LRAP, because you're in the driver's seat, is to choose to actually focus on high revenue students. And
Right.
I know a number of people out there that one of the things that keeps them up at night, it was true when I first started at Spring Arbor University back in 1999. One of the favorite buzz concerns for the board was the discount rate. And as much as I tried to do to educate them on the fact that, net tuition revenue writ large is what actually pays the bills around here, that was always had to be in my board report, and it was always on a conversation. Well, one of the ways to obviously achieve your enrollment goals while lowering your discount rate is to bring in more higher revenue students. And by and large, they don't have to be huge adjustments in that regard. If you can just increase by 1% the folks that are under your discount rate target, you are going to move your overall discount rate. And more importantly, your average net tuition revenue and your net tuition revenue writ large across the board. So again, the beauty of the LRAP as you are in the driver's seat is you can make some very data-informed, targeted offerings of LRAPs to students and achieve a breadth of goals on profile, whether it's academic programs, geographic, non-athletes, which is another thing that's a number of folks are looking at. They need more non-athletes, and as well as your average net tuition revenue. So, yeah, it's wonderful in that regard.
It's a great point, Matt.
Yeah, thank you both. And I think something that we all know, some stark numbers here that we all know, student loan concerns are serious problems for students and families when it comes to enrollment. And research that we've partnered with, 67% of college-bound families rule out institutions based on sticker price alone. I mean, that's a pretty jarring statistic. That's a significant number of families. And year over year, we've seen more than 70% of college-bound families also say that student loan debt is negatively impacting their students' college planning. So with that being said, we know it's a problem. And can you talk a little bit about how Ardeo's mission and our LRAPs really fitting so well into the higher ed climate right now, with families having those types of challenges?
Kim, you want to kick us off?
I'll do that. We know that concerns about student loans are influencing student decisions across the funnel, or what we've for years, as we were going around those blocks, Matt, we called it the funnel. So every point in student conversion, from which colleges will you apply to, where will you apply, will you complete the application, will you apply for aid? Each of those conversion points is influenced by concern about student loans. So in this current environment where there's greater uncertainty, a smaller college-bound population, and that population includes more first-generation college students, addressing concerns about loans is more important than it has ever been. And we know that LRAP, the Loan Repayment Assistance Program, resonates with families, and that they would be more likely to consider a college that offered that program.
Yeah, and I would just add there that the research is really clear on that there's that tipping point concept of a family seeing two schools as relatively equal. One offers the LRAP, one doesn't. Over 60% of those families said they would choose the LRAP offering school. And so one of the issues another issue that keeps us up at night is differentiating our institutions, right? And if you're in a room full of enrollment people and you ask them to describe their institution, oftentimes, at least at the institutional level, it sounds a lot alike. Maybe down at a program level, they've got something special that they're able to share that helps differentiate. At the larger institutional level, we're personable, small class sizes, we're a community, everybody cares for everybody. All those things are wonderful things, absolutely wonderful things. An LRAP can be a differentiator that creates a tipping point factor for a family when they are seeing you as very similar to another college that they're looking at. So, addressing that loan concern in this time where people are very concerned about affordability, when there's now even concerns about the economy and what that's going to look like. This is no small thing.
That you describe LRAPs in one of my absolute favorite ways. Can you describe it for me, for our listeners, in the way that you've done it before, in the three freedoms? Can you explain
sure.
that for us,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah, glad to do that. And I, as a former client, I would say I'm not sure that I codified it in this way while I was on a campus. I was just living in the moment, probably not sleeping well at night, as we've been covering, but the freedom for a student to be able to attend their best fit institution. Then the next freedom is actually to be able to study what they're interested in as opposed to what will necessarily pay the bills afterwards. I wish I had $10 for every dad who approached me at a campus visit event and said, "Hey, you got to help me out. My son's planning on studying art." We're not talking digital media. We're talking about classic art, sculpting and painting, those types of things. And then the last freedom is after the student graduates to actually be able to enter that career field, even if it's a lower starting salary. And, there are some career fields we'll all agree we just know that they're going to have a lower starting salary. The social work, many states still teaching is that way. But then there's the what I would call the classic liberal arts humanities, where it's like, we know you'll do well in the long run, but coming right out of college, not really sure. So in all those instances, to create the freedom for the student, and it's actually the freedom being given to them, not just by LRAP, but by their parents. It's their parents saying, we want to support you now to go to this school, as opposed to, we're not so sure about that. Let's go have a talk around the kitchen table. And yeah, so those three freedoms are definitely things that an LRAP brings to a student and their family uh, for around the college decision. So,
And
Matt,
go ahead,
I
Kim.
think one of the surprises coming new to the LRAP family for me is that loan repayment assistance helps parents too, because plus loans are included. And so many folks don't realize that those plus loans are included. And so parents, as the parent of a current college student, that's a great feeling of relief to know that if my child who's planning on med school or law school decides, gosh, I'm going to take a year and maybe substitute teach, that there could be support for that while they're in that transition to their ultimate career field.
and we do know, because we've all heard the stories, they take that year to substitute teach and they fall in love with teaching. Oops, that's a gotcha. And to your point of covering the parents' concerns with the plus loan, hey, there is not a private alternative loan out there that isn't going to ask for a cosigner. And usually that's mom or dad also. So the fact that we cover private alternative loans is another reason why parents are like, yeah, well, I feel better about this.
So one extra question for you both. What is one piece of advice, one nugget of advice that you would have to an enrollment leader right now who's thinking about something like a loan repayment assistance program for their campus, or maybe just interested in what Ardeo does and is curious about how we could help? What's a piece of advice that you would give to them?
You get to go first this
Yeah,
time.
I appreciate that. So, my one piece of advice would be to say, take a look at your funnel. Ask yourself how many people in that funnel aren't progressing and aren't talking to you. They're not progressing. They're not responding. They may have come for a campus visit. They may have even completed a FAFSA. You may have gotten their ICER. Wonderful. Fantastic. But that was not just days or weeks ago. That was a month ago or more now. And it's nearly May 1. Take a look at your data from the past and say how many of those students are likely to enroll. For me at Spring Arbor, if I had somebody who was admitted, had a financial aid package, and 60 days had passed without them depositing, I had a 7% yield rate on those students. With an LRAP offer in front of that family, we can turn that around. We can take those non-engaged students, get them re-engaged, give you and your team a chance to once again share the value propositions of your institution, and on average see 4% of them yield. So that my advice would be, don't think your current projection post May 1 is your destiny for the fall. Doesn't have to be.
Great advice. I sent an email off to a campus partner this morning and was able to share that they have 45 students on one of our reports that is the students that are high interest but haven't deposited yet. And so who wouldn't like to get that Easter egg, uh, so to speak, in an email, right? Ardeo's calling team has reached out and connected with the student or parent, has some notes for the campus, and is able to say, gosh, these students haven't deposited yet, but here's the top priority list for your team to reach out to right now. That's exactly the kind of support our campus partners need at this point, I think.
That's a great call. And man, I just did a pun without thinking about it. But anyway, the calling team is a huge, nice benefit right now. I used to pay, I won't say what company, but I used to pay a company to call my students because my team was stretched too thin to call everybody I want called. So that is another benefit. In fact, true story, just in the last, I guess, 2 weeks, we had a campus partner renew, and the president, one of his compelling reasons for saying, yeah, absolutely, we're going to continue our partnership was the calling. He said, the results of your call team, as reported to me by our chief enrollment officer, that's probably worth what we're paying you all by itself, let alone the enrollment increase. So yeah, it's big.
I think another benefit folks see in our calling team is the fact that we are bilingual, that we can reach out to students and parents in Spanish as well. Would you agree with that? That's definitely something that our clients find valuable.
Well, I'm going to say this: I'm not bilingual, and if somebody were to call me and want to talk about finances in a language other than English, that would be kind but not helpful. And so, yes, the converse is also true. The fact that we are able to offer that in a language that they're more comfortable in is huge, because finances have to be a critical concern. And if you can't get your questions answered, I can't imagine what that must be like.
It's such a personal matter, and for admission counselors that may be new in the field, it can be really challenging to talk to parents or family members that you may not feel comfortable doing that. But our team is trained to take on those questions and works in that subject matter every day, and so they're a great help to campuses.
Great. Thank you both.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
I do want to give somebody that's listening to this, we will not try to be experts about your campus. We're experts about LRAP. And so we're going to focus there. But whenever we get questions related to your campus, they'll get passed back to the campus the very next day. And so a family with an unanswered question is not well served. And so this just in time feedback of a question that's on their mind, on their hearts, because sometimes they're heart questions, not just mind questions. Once that is able to be addressed, that's another family that's more likely to enroll than a family that's sitting out there going, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing. I've got this
Mhm.
question, but I haven't raised it. So
Jessica, I think to answer your question more directly, I would say that Matt and I both enjoy most of all talking with our colleagues on campus. And if you have a challenge you're facing, a question, a need, a concern, just reach out to one of us and let us know, hey, can we talk for half an hour? And it doesn't need to be LRAP specific. We're delighted to do that, of course. But if you just need a listening ear or a sounding board, we're
Mhm.
glad to do that and to strategize with you.
Great. Thank you, Kim. And Matt, both for those answers. I think those are incredible pieces to what we do at Ardeo, talking about the calling team, the insights that we provide back. And I think some folks are kind of surprised that we do that's included in what you do in addition to the loan repayment assistance program. So thank you both for diving into that. And I want to shift gears a little bit as we wrap up the conversation. I wanted to ask two questions for you both. So the first one, and Matt, I will put this over to you first. Can you tell me about somebody in your life and your career? Maybe they were a mentor or somebody who made a really lasting impression. A little bit about what they taught you, either in your personal life or in your career in higher ed. Somebody who made an influence, and maybe one or two just really important key things that they taught
yeah. So this is very poignant because it's my first boss, and he's somebody I touched base with. So he's at my alma mater. I was a recruiter. He was the chief enrollment officer at that time, and then I did a stint in student development, and by that time he had also taken on the vice president for student development and enrollment, and so he continued to be my boss. We had the pleasure of rewriting the student handbook together. great patience shown with me, and as I would make suggestions for how that should go. But it's very poignant right now because he just passed this week. And so, I'll be looking forward to going to his celebration of life's ceremonies. I then left that campus because the person in front of me was only 4 years older than me. And I still remember sitting down with, so his name's Tom Morgan. I haven't said that yet. Tom Morgan at Greenville. And I would continue to call him in my new role on a different campus when I had a challenge, right, that I was facing, because I respected him. He was a good listener, a really good listener. I'm smiling right now because I remember anytime you'd bring an issue to him in his office, he would come out from around his desk and sit down in a side chair, sort of quarter facing you, and he would do his open body language position. So these are things I learned from him, right? And anyway, I continued to call him on every decision, big professional decision, staying, leaving institutions. I even talked to him sometimes. I served on some presidential search committees, and I never gave the names, but I just said, here's what I'm thinking about, given these various differences between the candidates, and he would clarify that. So great listener, wisdom, right? And yet he also wasn't overbearing in his sharing of ideas. So anyway, Tom Morgan, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And sorry to hear of his passing, but thank you so much for sharing that and sharing that with our listeners. Kim, how about you?
I knew this question was coming, so I've been thinking about it, Jessica. I've been really blessed in my career to have been raised up by folks that were so caring and intentional in their work. And I think back to some are still in the profession with me, and some have retired and are uh, following other passions. But I think today I'll call out Sue Hunt from the University of Denver. Sue had a poster in her office that said, "If you bring me a problem, bring me a solution." And she meant that. And we knew, the team of counselors that worked with her, that she wanted a solution and that she would thoughtfully consider it. And we knew too that she had high expectations. So I appreciate Sue for that. She moved on to be a high school counselor from working in admissions at the University of Denver for years. And I was also really fortunate to have great role models in terms of professional engagement, and was encouraged from my first days as an admission counselor to work with Great Plains ACAC, and then Rocky Mountain, and finally the National ACAC organization, and Council for Christian Colleges and Universities. So I would encourage young professionals to pursue those opportunities because of the richness it brings to your life and the sense of profession that you gain by being engaged in that way.
Well said.
Yes, definitely. I think even outside of the different organizations, one nugget I'd probably pass on to new admission counselors is to rely on your director of admissions or your vice president for enrollment management and just say, hey, can I take you to coffee? Can I sit with you at lunch in the cafeteria and pick your brain on the business of enrollment management? Because I think as admissions counselors, it's very much so a heart job. Loving the students that you're talking to, loving, a lot of new admission counselors are alums, so loving the institution you're at, but maybe just taking a few lunches, a few coffee meetings to learn a little bit about the business side of things too, and how what you're doing really matters for the health of the institution you're serving too. I think that provides that extra dimension to the really important work admission counselors do. But also just having fun with it. I mean, I think every admission counselor loves their campus tours and loves their college visits and meeting students. But I think that would be one little nugget. I don't know if you all agree with me on that for admission counselors, but could add an additional facet to their job.
Absolutely.
And my last question for you both, Kim, I'll pass this one over to you first. Can you tell us about a time recently that you were inspired?
This is an easy one for me this time, Jessica. Just last Friday, I was able to attend the investiture for Reverend Dr. Christopher B. Davis at Lemoyne-Owen College in Memphis, Tennessee, Memphis's HBCU. And it was just, I've got the chills just thinking about being at the Orpheum in downtown Memphis and the folks that were there and the passion they have for the college. And to hear Dr. Davis say, the community thought we might not rise, but we rose again. I know college is rising. And to have him announce from the podium during his investiture their partnership with Ardeo to provide a way for students to have a different future. And then for Dr. Davis to connect that to the well-being of the city and community of Memphis just meant so much to me. I was very moved by the entire experience and look forward to being back on campus with that team again very soon.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kim. And I look forward to hearing his speech. I think you were able to catch an audio clip of that. So I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to hear that. Matt, how about you?
Well, I don't know how you're going to define operationalize the word recent, but uh, and it's a little interesting, I suppose, that Kim's occurred in relationship to an HBCU, and mine does as well, and that's Jackson State. They have an event in the fall called High School Day, and I've worked on a number of smaller private colleges over my life. I mean, maximum class size of 410. Um, Jackson State obviously brings in a few more students than that. And on this high school day event, they had 5,000 campus visitors, 5,000 campus visitors. And just to be a part of that event and see the way they're not just their enrollment division team, but the faculty, Sonic Boom of the South, their band. It started with more of a the typical sort of uh, event where you have tables for information and various things. That was just the size of it. But then we moved over into their auditorium, 5,000 people. The band is playing. The gymnastics team is doing things. The president's speaking. The provost is speaking. It was such a great view into hospitality. Just, I mean, they started at like 7:30 in the morning. Oh, and I'm like, high school kids are going to show up at 7:30 in the morning? They're coming from 2 hours. These people have been on the bus since 5:30 this morning, and yet it was just an exciting time. And so the takeaway for me is this idea that hospitality is not simply possible with a smaller, intimate group. That you can truly roll out the red carpet for larger groups of people. It does take more of the campus. So the fact that they're engaged as a campus to serve well, I don't know. There's just a number of factors about it that were simultaneously encouraging, overwhelming. Yeah, just it was amazing event for me as an older guy who had never experienced something like that. So that's what comes to mind.
That's great.
Sounds like both experiences had just incredible energy, just such great positive energy.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. And just say that's a wrap for this episode. And just a huge thanks to Dr. Kim Myrick and Matt Osborne for sharing their experiences and insights into today's higher ed landscape and the challenges and opportunities that our higher ed enrollment leaders are facing today. And I just want to say that if you're interested in learning more about what Ardeo does or how LRAPs can work for your campuses, please feel free to visit our website at ardeo.org or reach out to us. Send Matt or Kim an email, and we'd love to get a conversation started with you. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Jessica.